One thing I find both hilarious and tragic throughout history is how religion ends up being mixed up in politics, especially in ancient times, because today we have more of an understanding of these monotheistic religions and how they impact politics. But back in the day, there was polytheism, and it was an interesting time. So take, for instance, the example of when Cyrus the great Persian emperor, comes to conquer Babylon. Babylon is at a very interesting political stage at this point. So one thing you need to understand about Babylon's way of conducting religion is that they have these human-sized statues that they treat like they are gods, and they call them idols. So these gods are bathed and fed and just in general taken care of, given really nice housing with a lot of gold, and just treated like gods. And as long as your god is in the area of his or her control, then that area is blessed by the god, and that's all really nice for you guys. So each area sort of has their own idol god. At this point in time, Nabonidus is king in Babylon, and he's not very popular because the primary god in Babylon at this time is called Baal. And Baal has this rite every new year where the god is brought through the city, and then the king sort of blesses him, and it's this renewal rite. But Nabonidus is not very into Baal. He is more of a follower of a different god, and he wants that god to be venerated instead of Baal and be brought to the top of the pantheon. But Baal's priests aren't very into that. And so they kind of, get into a conflict. And because the people are in general in favor of Baal, Nabonidus is like, screw you guys, I'm getting out of here. I'm still king and I'm leaving my son to take care of things, but I'm leaving and I'm not coming back for 10 years. So that New Year's rite you really like and that's important for protecting the city, I'm not doing that. And he uses that as kind of this punishment of the people. And I guess the tactic here is that eventually the people will become so desperate to have this rite done by the king that they will bow down and be like, oh, please come back. We will also venerate that god you like. Just please do the right for us. That sort of backfires for Nabonidus. So as Cyrus starts to march toward Babylon, or at least as Nabonidus can see that eventually Cyrus is gonna be coming toward Babylon, Nabonidus goes back home and he is like, I'm gonna do the right, please don't hate me. And also he takes all of the idols from the areas under Babylon's control, he takes those gods to Babylon and is like, now you have to do what I say and you have to serve Babylon because otherwise I'm gonna kill your gods. I'm gonna destroy them. And those places are rightfully pissed and a little scared because now their areas are without a god's protection and great Cyrus is on his way. And the funny thing is it ends up demoralizing them because they don't have the protection of a god. How would they stand against Cyrus the Great? So they're more like, we're just gonna chill and Cyrus, you can just go right on by. And when Cyrus finally gets to Babylon, the people in Babylon are so pissed at Nabonidus and all of the stuff that he's been doing and the way he's been shitting on their gods that they're like, open the gates! And they just let Cyrus in. And Cyrus, being the smart guy that he is like, let's just make a bunch of sacrifices to your god and just in general make sure that his priesthood has a lot of money. Just in general, be very respectful of your god and venerate him. And another thing he does is also, there's 40,000 Jews in Babylon at this point who don't want to be there because they were forced there and taken from Israel. And he's like, you can go back home to Israel. So the Jews like him too. And it's just very interesting how religion is used in politics here and how this belief that the gods are truly there and this figure really represents our god, and if he is moved, the blessing of that god is taken away from us. It's so interesting because it's a very different way of looking at godhood and religion than the way we do today, and it's a very physical sort of religion, isn't it? Because if you look at Christianity today, it's more like, well, God is out there and you can't really in the same way directly attack the god, but you can attack an ancient god. And I think that's very interesting.